Have you ever really thought about what goes into making your favorite t-shirt? I mean, it's a lot more than just cotton and thread. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden world of chemicals in our clothes and see how the brands we love are trying to handle this really complex issue. Right? It's a question we probably don't ask ourselves very often. But the answer, well, it has huge implications, not just for our health, but also for the very companies we buy from. So, let's get into it. All right, here's the plan. We'll start by unpacking the actual risk. Then we'll look at two totally different ways companies deal with it. And we'll wrap up by looking at this whole thing from three different professional points of view. It's pretty interesting.
Okay, first things first, why are we even talking about this? Well, it's because the chemicals that can end up in our stuff carry some pretty significant risks for everyone involved. For us, the consumers, it's about our health. We're talking about serious potential effects like hormone disruption. But for businesses, the stakes are just as high, if not higher. Just imagine a huge brand having to recall millions of products because they found a banned chemical. The financial hit is one thing, but the damage to their reputation, that can be devastating. It really can threaten their entire business. So what's a company to do? Well, the first, most basic approach is pretty straightforward. Just follow the law. This is what we call the compliance playbook.
And the number one tool in that playbook is the Restricted Substance List, or RSL. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like a banned ingredients list for making clothes. It's a super clear document that tells every single supplier, hey, these chemicals are off limits, and here are the maximum levels for everything else. And here's a really smart way you see RSLs used in the real world. Instead of trying to keep up with different rules in every single country, a company might just adopt one of the strictest standards, like Europe's really tough REACH regulation, and apply it to all their products everywhere. It just simplifies everything and raises the safety bar across the board.
So the process itself is a pretty clear, structured system. You start by setting the rules, that's your RSL. Then you make your suppliers agree to those rules in a contract. Step 3, you test the products to make sure they're actually following the rules. And finally, if you find a problem, you have a plan ready to fix it. Simple as that.
But here's where it gets tricky. Making sure everyone is compliant is not easy because these supply chains go deep. A brand works directly with its tier 1 suppliers, right? The factories that are actually sewing the clothes. But what about their suppliers? The dye house, the fabric mill, the farm that grew the cotton? The real challenge is deciding how far down that rabbit hole you need to go to be sure everything's safe. Okay, so just following the rules, that's the baseline. That's the bare minimum. The really forward-thinking companies, though, they go way beyond that. They shift from just reacting to laws to proactively managing chemical risk like it's a core part of their entire business strategy. Now, this is a really crucial distinction. The hazard-based approach is simple. It asks, is this chemical dangerous in its pure form? If the answer is yes, you ban it. End of story. But the risk-based approach adds a really important layer of context. It asks, okay, it might be toxic, but given how it's actually used in this product, is there any realistic way for it to harm someone? It's a much more nuanced way of looking at the problem. And to get proactive, companies need a totally different toolkit. They can use things like green chemistry to design safer products from the very beginning. They can use assessment tools like Green Screen to find better, safer alternatives to harmful chemicals. And to build trust, they can go out and earn certifications from respected groups that consumers actually recognize and believe in. So here's what that actually looks like. A company might use a system like Green Screener to find a safer dye for all of its t-shirts. But then, for something really sensitive like baby clothes, they'd go the extra mile and get a super high-trust certification like Okotex. It's all about giving parents that extra peace of mind. So we have these two big approaches, right? You've got basic compliance on one hand and proactive management on the other. But how do different people inside a company actually see all this? Let's try looking at it through 3 different professional lenses. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. The very same set of actions can be interpreted in completely different ways. An accountant, for example, is looking at the bottom line. They see the cost of testing and ask, is this a good use of our money? An investor, on the other hand, is playing the long game. They see that same testing program and think, great, this protects my investment from future lawsuits and recalls. And the auditor? The auditor just wants to see the receipts. They need the paperwork, the test results, the contracts, to prove the company is actually doing what it claims. So when you boil it all down, what starts as a hidden danger that you have to control
can actually become a visible strategic advantage. It's about building a business that's more resilient, more trustworthy, and in the end, a whole lot more valuable.
So that's really the key question to leave you with. When you see a company talking about chemical management, are they just trying to stay out of trouble, or are they actually investing in their own future value? It's a question worth asking. Thanks for digging into this with me.